fatigued? Do you feel depleted? Today I'm going to be sharing the supplements that I take and why I take them as a wide range, ranging from various adaptogen herbs, which types of collagen, protein, creatine, Boswellia, Supergreens, etc., etc. So if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Kate. I share a weekly video with you every Monday around something related to menopause. This is going to apply to you whether you take HRT or not. Personally, I don't take HRT. I never have done. Went through perimenopause very early. I was done with the whole thing round by my sort of mid-40s. I do follow a healthy lifestyle. Right now, for quite a long time, it has been a very high period of stress in my life. Notably, I got scammed out about £40,000 with a roof fix, unfix. We've lost several key family members and also favourite pets recently. And it's always the best ones that go. Why does that happen? And it's been a torrid old time, and I'm still right in the thick of it. I'm working very, very long hours and building up 2 new businesses, and it's been a challenging time. My current lifestyle, I eat healthy, I prioritize my sleep, I don't drink too much wine. I have about a glass and a half every evening. I do my fitness training 5-6 days a week, principally strength training. I get out for walks. I'm surrounded by pets, which I love. I'm very lucky. I have a beautiful view. I live in a house which I absolutely adore. I have a beautiful garden. So on a lot of levels, things are really good. But I am noticing that I feel like I'm on a slippery slope. It's a very steep mountain, and I feel like I'm not making too much progress to the top. So I've made a few extra changes, notably adaptogen herbs and also Supergreens that I'm going to tell you about in a little while, but primarily the adaptogen herbs. I'm going to go into all of this in detail today. I'm also providing a free downloadable guide. You don't have to sign up to an email list in order to get it. It's in the link in the description box below. So just grab that. It will download immediately. The first thing I'm going to talk about adaptogens. So what are adaptogens? They are a range of mushrooms. They are herbs that help modulate our immune function and our stress response. So in most cases, our cortisol levels are higher than we want them to be through stress, through menopause. As estrogen falls, cortisol naturally rises. As cortisol rises, it increases the insulin in our bodies, which is our fat storing hormone, hence the deposits that you might be getting around your waist, even though you're probably doing everything right. And we have 4 times the amount of cortisol receptors around our belly. So if belly fat is an issue for you, you probably also want to consider adaptogen herbs. The reason I'm diving into them again now is for stress management. And also I want to prevent the risk of developing an autoimmune disease, because autoimmune diseases tend to come and bite us in the bum when we've been under chronic stress. Autoimmune diseases are things like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, ankylosing spondylitis, multiple sclerosis. There are lots of different autoimmune diseases, and once you've got them, they're bloody hard to reverse, if at all possible. They can have such a detrimental impact on your life in general. So I'm all out for preventing these things happening, because I do feel that maybe I'm at a higher risk of something like that happening. And I want to avoid it at all costs. Adaptogen herbs are really something you take for long-term prevention. They help to protect you against burnout, adrenal fatigue, immune crashes, and autoimmune disease. The blend that I used to take, primarily because I worked for that company, but in actual fact, once I started to take that blend, it was just like, oh my goodness, I feel so supported in so many different aspects of my life. Those ones off the top of my head were Schisandra, Rhodiola, Maitake, Chaga, Reishi, Ashwagandha, cordyceps, and astragalus. And those have a range. Some of them are energizing, some of them are calming, and I used to take it just in a daily shake. However, I'm now going to be sourcing some of those individually myself, and I'm going to be taking them at strategic points of the day. So out of all of those that I used to take, for the moment, I'm just going to focus on ashwagandha and reishi. Reishi was a bit of a Reishi I had to dive into because I want it for the autoimmune disease prevention. And Maitake is also a really powerful adaptogenic herb and can also be used alongside cancer therapy. Ashwagandha is probably one we're all familiar with. It's probably one of the most popular adaptogenic herbs, and that has a calming and relaxing effect on your body. So it helps to bring down that cortisol response. So for somebody like me who's got elevated cortisol for a long period of time, ashwagandha is something that I will take at the end of the day. There are a couple of contraindications. It can interact with sedatives, and it can also have an impact on your thyroid. So if you have a hyperactive thyroid, you definitely want to talk to your healthcare provider before taking ashwagandha. I get my ashwagandha sourced from India, but I'm buying it from Whole Foods online. And make sure that you're getting a reputable source, because there's a lot of mass-produced adaptogenic herbs on the market, and you want to make sure that you're getting a high quality adaptogenic herb. And that blend that I used to have, they used to go to such great lengths to make sure that they were sourcing from the right places. A lot of the adaptogenic herbs are being mass produced in China, but they're grown at ground level, so they're not really having those adaptogenic properties that they need. They get their adaptogenic properties by growing above the vegetation line in really harsh conditions for the most part of them. Reishi, however, does grow in Asia, and I'm getting my reishi from China. It also grows in Japan and other areas. Reishi is a gentle grounding mushroom. It soothes stress, modulates immunity, so it doesn't stimulate your immune system, because this is where I was thinking, do I have Maitake or reishi to reduce the risk of developing an autoimmune disease? And at the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, Maitake, because that stimulates your immune system. If you're at risk, or if you have an autoimmune disease, Maitake might be too stimulatory, because when we think about it, an autoimmune disorder is because the immune system of your own body is fighting itself. So we don't want to stimulate it like that. We want to modulate it, which is why I chose reishi over Maitake for this instance. Reishi also fights inflammation, and you'll know that if you've got chronic stress, your joints are probably going to be more stiff and more sore than they might otherwise be. It's also great for sleep and mood, so it's a nice combination to have alongside ashwagandha. Reishi also has anti-cancer effects, and obviously if our immune system is working well, technically our T cells should gobble up the cancer cells, but that is not always the case, particularly under long-term stress. So long-term stress is going to negatively impact your immunity. So again, reishi is going to help to support my immune function, or your immune function. And there have been quite a few studies to say it actually promotes cancer cell death. So I think it's a really helpful adaptogenic herb to have in my toolbox. Also supports liver detox, your cardiovascular health, and just long-term longevity. Quick contraindication on it: if you're taking blood thinners, it might not interact ever so well with those. So again, before taking anything like this, because plants are so powerful, just check with your healthcare provider if you're taking any other kind of medication to make sure it's not going to have a negative impact on what you're already taking. Incidentally, reishi is known as the mushroom of immortality, so I quite like that name. Maitake is known as hen of the woods, not to be confused with chicken of the woods, because we have a lot of bracket fungi around here, which is chicken of the woods. It's quite yellow when it's newly created, and it grows up the trunks of plants. You'll see the bracket fungi stand out at the side of trees. Hen of the woods is more of a grey colour, and it grows down towards the sort of base of trunks rather than higher up the trunk. So just be mindful of that. Don't go out thinking, oh, she said hen of the woods, it must be chicken of the woods. It's not. They're both edible, but don't go foraging for chicken of the woods expecting it to be Maitake, because it's not. So Maitake is really good for supporting therapy if you're actually taking anti-cancer treatment right now. It has, like I mentioned before, it has that activating effect on the immune system. So it stimulates the immune system, which again is seen as a healthy adjunct to helping with that cancer treatment if you're already taking cancer treatment. It also helps with blood sugar regulation and also metabolic health. So if you're already prone to autoimmune disease, you might not want to consider Maitake because of that stimulatory effect on the immune system. But between the two of them, reishi is a more gentle preventative support. Maitake is a more, I wouldn't say aggressive, but it's a more stimulatory adaptogenic herb that is probably going to be more of a useful tool for you if you're actually going through cancer therapy, or you have PCOS, or you're struggling with insulin resistant and you need that stronger immune activation. I will probably combine my reishi with my ashwagandha when I take it at the end of the day. I'm also going to be sharing a way of taking these things that you might not like the flavor of, because right now I'm still weaning myself onto the flavor of the protein supplements that I'm taking, which I'll share with you in a moment. I hate the flavor of milk, even though I used to drink it as a child. Ugh, it's just disgusting. And this is whey case, it's casein protein, also micellar, I think that's how you say it, protein powder. And I'm still having to really force myself to drink the stuff. I do feel it's worth forcing myself to drink the stuff because of the benefits that it gives me. But I will share a recipe with you in a little while that also includes beetroot powder, which is great for erectile dysfunction because it helps increase blood flow. And it's also just a really potent antioxidant. You may hate beetroots, but I think beetroot powder is naturally sweet. I love the color of it. And because it has that really rich, earthy flavor, it pairs really well with these more earthy flavored supplements that we might take. And so you're giving yourself a real powerhouse of nutrition later on in the day. So we're talking about blood flow, erectile dysfunction. Reishi and Maitake are also really impactful for prostate cancer, but they show promise in different ways. Reishi inhibits 5-alpha reductase, which is the enzyme that converts testosterone to DHT, which is a driver of prostate growth and BPH. Reishi promotes cancer cell death and reduces inflammation, and it's great for the prevention of hormone-related diseases. A male friend or partner has got raised PSA levels, but they are not deemed to be a prostate cancer person, then reishi can be something that they might want to consider taking to, help modulate that risk. Maitake, on the other hand, is a bit more aggressive, and you can take it alongside cancer therapy. It contains a compound called diffraction, which is shown to stimulate the natural killer cells and macrophages in our body. Essentially, it enhances the body's natural cancer cell killing surveillance team and direct tumor fighting capacity. I believe also that you can use it alongside chemotherapy, but obviously you need to check that with your healthcare provider. So Maitake is ideal for more cancer related specific treatments where you're already part and parcel of that treatment regime, and also if immune stimulation is required rather than immune modulation. Just a quick one on Supergreens, because I give these to my cats and dogs purely because I bought these powders quite a few years ago now, and I absolutely hate the flavour of them. I've got wheatgrass, spirulina and chlorella, and I used to take them religiously. I used to make myself drink this stuff, and then I just fell off the wagon. And now, while I'm making sure that I've got a full arsenal of things that are going to support my health, I'm thinking, I've still got some of those left. So I'm going to have to share them with the cats and dogs. The cats and dogs, by the way, I have very long living, very healthy cats and dogs. And I'm sure it's partly down to the broth that I make for them regularly. It's based upon chicken broth, but I add all sorts of antioxidants and turmeric and apple cider vinegar and these various supergreens and dandelion leaves, etc., etc. I do follow a proper recipe. I'm not adding in any old stuff. And I'm thinking, right, well, maybe I should start taking it myself. But again, the flavour, particularly of chlorella and spirulina, is just vile. So I'm going to be adding a little bit of that into my beetroot latte at the end of the day too. So spirulina, it's anti-inflammatory and is an iron-rich protein. Chlorella is great for general detoxification and also your gut health, which plays such an important part in our immune system and also how we get through the menopause and beyond. Wheatgrass is alkalizing and oxygenating. Beetroot, obviously circulation, also stamina, just energy levels. Reishi for immune system modulation and stress regulation. And ashwagandha for specific cortisol support and hormone balance. So all of those will be packaged into this delicious, hopefully, or not so vile latte that I'm just going to literally add with some oat milk. I know people say, oh, you should drink almond milk. I like oat milk, and it's unsweetened. I will add a good spoonful of beetroot powder because the beetroot will hopefully mask the vast majority of those other flavors. I might even add a drop of vanilla essence into it, or possibly even some peppermint essence or from some fresh mint leaves. And I'm just going to experiment, see what happens with it. And eventually I will come to a recipe that is there, hopefully a little bit more palatable than all of those things put together. I do take raw organic daily cacao powder. I might actually mix that in with the beetroot powder latte as well, because that'll give it a sort of rich, dark, velvety flavor, and maybe I'll have that as a good night drink if I can force myself to drink it. But it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to be drinking daily from now on. One thing I want to chat about quickly is mulberry leaf tea. So a little while back, I bought myself a massive batch of mulberry leaves. I actually like the flavor of the tea. It's a little bit like chamomile tea to a degree. It's a little bit like drinking, I suppose, soaked hay, but it's a cleansing tea. There's no major strength to the flavor of it. The reason I started drinking it is because I've definitely got some belly fat going on. Long-term stress is going to be really hard not to have belly fat because of that cortisol affecting your insulin levels and then storing it around our belly. So I was thinking maybe I can have that as a blood sugar modulator. Did some research on it, and it does say that with mulberry leaf tea, particularly if you're taking diabetes 2 or diabetes medication, you do need to be careful of the risk of hypoglycemia, where your blood sugars go down too low. I noticed, and it was really weird, that since I've been drinking the mulberry leaf tea, I've had moments in my day where I've literally had the jitters. And I remember it happening to me once before when I was pregnant, and I remember having a banana. I felt awful. I didn't understand what was going on. Had a banana, and about 15 minutes later, felt absolutely fine, back to my normal self. So I was just monitoring it, and I've not had the jitters since I stopped drinking the mulberry leaf tea. I don't really eat meals that have a lot of carbs in them in any case. I don't avoid carbs. Carbs are a really healthy part of living a healthy life. But I think possibly because the only carbs that I do eat are rarely white potatoes, often a sweet potato, but I was tending to have it around my post-workout meal, which is normally a round of sourdough toast. I make my own sourdough, so sourdough toast with 1 or 2 eggs and some green beans. So again, not a massive carb meal, and the fact that it's got the fiber from the vegetables in it too is also going to bring down that blood sugar response. And I think it might be having such a profound impact on my blood sugars that it's actually sending me mildly hypoglycemic after I've been drinking it. And I tend to drink it around my meal. So sometimes it's before, sometimes it's after, but generally, it's around, within half an hour of me either eating the meal or having finished the meal. The only thing I can think that's changed, and I stopped drinking it for a couple of days just to see what would happen, because I always use myself as a guinea pig. There's no point in me sharing what I think works if I've not used it myself. So everything that I share, I've always tested on myself first, and often with a lot of other women that I've worked with in the past. However, the mulberry leaf tea, I can only give my own opinion on it right now. But it'd be interesting for you to try it if you're struggling with your blood sugar levels and maybe you eat more carbs than I do. Maybe you're trying to wean yourself off processed foods, if you like to go through the drive-throughs and things like that. By drinking mulberry leaf tea around a carb heavy meal, you can reduce your blood sugar spike by about, I think it's 21% when I was doing my research, which is quite significant. So I put that out there. I'm not going to stop drinking it. I actually really enjoy it, but I'm just going to be mindful not to drink quite so much of it as I was. I think at one point I was drinking 3 cups of it a day because I actually really liked it. I think it was just too much, and it was having such an impact on my blood sugars. So if you can keep your blood sugars stable, that's going to have an anti-inflammatory effect on your body, which is great because, again, it helps to prevent that autoimmune disease creeping up on you. But it will also have a positive impact on your waistline. I've not drunk it for long enough to actually notice. In fact, I've not measured myself recently. I think I'm doing my regular strength training, and I think my waistline is getting slightly less. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. I've just not measured it. So do consider mulberry leaf tea, but just be mindful not to overdo it because it might start to give you the jitters, and that's a really horrible feeling when your blood sugars are getting a little bit low. So just be mindful of that. Then on to protein, because as we get older, as we go through the menopause and beyond, we don't assimilate protein as well as we used to do when we were younger. So that basically means when you're eating, say you're eating a chicken breast, when you were younger, your body would use the protein in it much more effectively than it does nowadays. We also have a greater need for protein because of the fact that we have this raised cortisol due to our falling sex hormones, which has a catabolic effect on the body. So it breaks down. So you suddenly get more wrinkly, you get the aches and pains. You find that the muscles that you used to have maybe are not quite as pronounced as they were. And it's actually much harder to build lean muscle as you go through, get through menopause and beyond. So we have a real need for more protein, and the vast majority of us do not eat enough protein. Ideally, you want to eat around 1 to 1.5 grams of lean protein per pound of your ideal body weight, your target body weight. So say if your target body weight is say 150 pounds, you want to be aiming to eat around about 140 grams of lean protein a day. That is pretty tough to do, which is why I think it's so important that we supplement with good quality protein powders. I would encourage you to go for the unflavored versions because they don't, on the whole, contain sucralose. You'll find even the good protein powders, as soon as there's a flavor involved, it's likely to have aspartame or probably sucralose, and that's not good for your gut health. We don't want artificial sweeteners. It might contain monk fruit sweetener, that's fine. It might contain stevia, that's fine, that's a plant. It might contain organic cane sugar, that's fine in small amounts. So sugar in small amounts is not an issue, and when we think about it, real sugar comes from a plant, although it's highly processed. But there are different amounts of processing. Ideally, you want something that's either completely unsweetened or with monk fruit or stevia, because those are both healthy versions of sugars, and they might make it taste a bit better. I'm struggling at the minute, like I said earlier, with this vile milk flavor. If you drink milk, it won't be a problem for you. I do add half a banana into mine now. I blend it up after I've done my workout, and that makes it more palatable, and I can just about get that down without feeling like I'm about to bring it all back up. But I have a real thing about that flavor of milk. I just dislike it intensely. There are a few different types of protein powder that you need to be aware of. Firstly, make sure that if you're taking a protein powder, it has the branched chain amino acids in the 2:1:1 ratio. So 2 ratio of leucine, and then 1 of valine and 1 of isoleucine. Leucine is the one that really helps us build out that lean muscle mass. Most protein powders will have the correct ratio, but some of them don't, so just be mindful of that. Whey isolate is a bit more pricey, but it is probably the fastest acting and the purest form of a protein shake that you can take, and you take that after your workout. Whey protein powder, again, is fast delivery. It might cause a little bit of bloating, it can cause a little bit of digestive issue, but often in time that will settle down. But it's definitely more budget friendly than the whey isolate. You got the micellar casein, micellar casein. I still don't know how it's said. I do take the stuff, I just don't know how to pronounce it. That is a slow release protein. So that's something you'd probably want to consider taking before you go to bed. In fact, I actually might start to add it to my beetroot extravaganza latte, and just is another way to get that before bedtime, because when you consider you're in bed hopefully for sort of 7, 8, possibly even 9 hours if you're really, really lucky. And that's a long time without any protein being delivered to your muscles or through the body. If you're like me and you eat quite late, and I really should eat earlier, but I don't because my days are really, really long, I probably go to bed with enough protein in my body. So what I tend to do with that micellar protein or the micellar protein, I add half a scoop of that to my Greek yogurt in the morning as my pre-workout meal, because then it's boosting the protein content of the Greek yogurt. I also have milled flax seeds with that. Again, it's another good source of protein. I have some oats, rolled oats or steel cut oats, that a little bit of carbs, but they also contain some protein, and then some mixed berries on top of that. That's a really healthy pre-workout meal if you don't like eating heavily in the morning, which I do not like doing at all. Intermittent fasting I used to love. It doesn't work for me any longer. Something you might want to consider too if you're not getting the results that you used to get. Generally now, as we get through menopause and beyond, we need to be eating within about ideally 45 minutes of getting out of bed to prevent that cortisol rise, because it will rise. And when you start to eat healthy carbs combined with protein, you're dampening that cortisol effect. So sometimes we just have to get bossy with ourselves. I've had to get so bossy with myself. I don't want to eat first thing in the morning, but I do. I don't want to drink these protein things, but I do. And yes, I'm pretty convinced they're having a positive impact. I'm really happy to be taking the adaptogen herbs because I've taken them for years and I swore by them. I still swear by them. I haven't been taking them for a while because of the fact that the company that I used to get mine from stopped producing them in the UK. We can no longer get them, which was just devastating. But now, with starting to take the ashwagandha and the reishi, I really feel like I'm doing everything I need in order to prevent the nasties coming and biting me in the bum. I'm just getting through this really difficult part of my life. You might be vegan, so just make sure that the plant protein shake that you are getting has a combination of different proteins to make sure that you're getting the full profile. Often, some protein powders will just say maybe pea protein. I would try and find one with at least two different sources of protein, so maybe pea and hemp. Have a look, see what they say on the packet, but don't just assume that it's a vegan protein powder, that it's going to have the branched chain amino acids ratio that you need, the 2-1-1, or indeed that it's got the full amino acids profile that you need. That brings me on to collagen, because there are 3 types of collagen, and your supplement is likely just to have collagen type 1 and 3 and probably not 2. So just take a look at the packet, because I think we all say, oh, collagen, great, it's going to be good for my joint health, my hair, my skin, my nails. 1 and 3 are good for your skin, your hair, your nails, and also connective tissue, so your tendons, your ligaments. Type 2 is what you want for your cartilage, so your joint health. So just be mindful of that. Collagen also does not count as a protein because it's not a full profile amino acid. It doesn't contain tryptophan, it doesn't contain leucine. So you cannot count collagen towards your daily protein intake. And then creatine is another supplement that I take daily. It helps you build lean muscle. I actually take it more for cognition, particularly menopause brain health, but it's also, there are more and more studies showing that it has a protective effect against developing dementia, or helping keep those amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's away. Creatine is one of those things you need to start to take, and eventually it has a building up effect. You'll find bodybuilders and, the young lads who are building lots of muscle, they'll load up on around 20 grams a day for a couple of weeks, then they'll back it down to between 3 and 5 grams a day. I tend to take just 5 grams every day, and I find that works really, really well. The only time you wouldn't want to take creatine is if you've got kidney disease. You will, if you do a search for creatine, you might find some people going, oh no, it's just weight, it's water weight, and it buggers up your kidneys. It can only have a detrimental effect if you already have kidney disease. If you're taking creatine, just make sure you're drinking plenty of water. We probably all need to be drinking more water than we are every day anyway. In fact, if you want to know how much you should be drinking, you want to take your body weight in pounds, divide that in half, and that's the amount of fluid ounces of water you should be drinking every day. So if you weigh 140 pounds, you want to be aiming to drink 70 fluid ounces of water every day. If you get loads of night sweats, hot flushes, if you just sweat a lot, you want to be drinking even more than that. Just moving on to B vitamins and magnesium. B vitamins, particularly B6, B9 and B12, are really helpful for modulating and regulating your nervous system. So if you're struggling with mental health, if you struggle with anxiety, if you're just feeling so weighed down with everything, you're becoming hypersensitive, you're becoming very frustrated and intolerant with things that may not have bothered you in the past, consider a B complex, because that contains all the major B vitamins that you might need, and that should support your nervous system in a really beneficial way. And magnesium, a lot of people do take a magnesium supplement. If you want magnesium to help you sleep or to relax, magnesium glycinate is one of the best ones. I found a magnesium complex worked for me better, to take it at bed to help me sleep more. But there is a lot of evidence saying that glycinate is the best one for sleep. So I think it's one of those, try it. If glycinate works really, really well for you, keep with it. Otherwise, maybe try the magnesium complex. Just quickly on Boswellia, which is a frankincense extract. I have given that to my dogs for years to help them with reducing inflammation in the bodies. It's really great for their digestive system and also joint health insofar as it helps reduce inflammation. I also give my dogs green-lipped muscle powder, which helps regeneration of joints. But Boswellia is something you can give to your horses, but it's also something that we can take as humans. And again, it has that anti-inflammatory effect. When we took on our new puppy, she came to us in a fairly dire state, and she was passing blood for a good 8 to 9 months. And we popped her on Boswellia, and now she's 100% like normal. If you have that tendency for joint pain, maybe digestive issues, having Boswellia every day might be something that you want to consider taking. So I think the thing with this is consider where you feel you're struggling most, and then add in a few supplements to see how you get on and track how you feel. I always say to everyone, if you're taking a supplement, start to track, so, maybe a week before you start to take it, and then track for a significant time afterwards, so that is it actually having a positive impact on you? Because if it's not, you may as well not bother taking it. I think with all these things, we can add in and add in and add in and add in, and do you know what's working and what's not? I also tend to add in things individually so that I know which one is having that effect. A bit like the mulberry leaf tea. I could have started to take that when I took the adaptogen herbs and everything else. I didn't. I took it by itself, and so I can pretty much 100% say that that is what is giving me the jitters. The green tea does the same to me, but it was a different type of a jitter. It really was. It was a really weird sensation, and one that didn't feel very nice at all. And I'm absolutely convinced it's down to that mulberry leaf tea. I will still keep drinking it, but not as often as I was, and probably just make sure I drink it around maybe more of a carb heavy meal, so that I don't get those jitters afterwards. So just be mindful of that. Maybe don't buy a huge pack of mulberry leaf tea if you're going to try it, so that if it has too much of a profound impact on you, you're not going to waste it. Or maybe just have half a teaspoon instead. And so I've got like one of those old-fashioned sort of Victorian grabber, like tea leaf grabber thing, and I stick that in a cup of hot water and then muddle it around. I used to fill it up as much as I could with mulberry leaf tea, and now I'm literally just putting maybe a quarter of a teaspoon in. So I'm probably getting some of the benefits of it, but without it having that profound impact on me. So it was much more powerful than I ever thought it would be. When you look at it, it's just this weak, insipid, hay-coloured water, but it packs a punch. It's quite incredible. Just a quick one on beetroot powder. When you start to take it regularly, you will probably find that your pee looks pink. Don't worry, you've not overnight suddenly developed some bladder issue. That's what happens with beetroot. It's a bit like asparagus. All of a sudden, I don't know how that happens. I mean, literally, you eat asparagus, and if you go for a pee, maybe 2 minutes later, your pee smells different. It's the bizarrest thing. If you've never had asparagus or you've not been aware of it, go and eat a spear of asparagus and then go and have a piddle, because it's incredible the difference that makes. Also, if you're taking vitamin C, that can make your urine more yellow. So just be mindful of these things. Beetroot is likely to give it a pinkish tinge. Don't panic. I remember the first time I started taking beetroot powder regularly, it's just like, oh my goodness, have I got a bladder infection? I am prone to bladder infections. I've not had one for years and years and years, but I went through a period where I had just so many of them. Incidentally, not since I've been postmenopausal. Strange, isn't it? Because that's when we are at much greater risk of developing them. So yeah, beetroot will send it pink. So check the free download in the description box below, which will give you all of this information in a more digestible way of staying on top of it. And let me know, do you take adaptogen herbs? If you do, which ones do you recommend? And out of everything I've discussed today, are you taking a collagen supplement? Why do you take the collagen supplement? Does it work? Which one are you taking? Boswellia, do you take Boswellia? Give me your feedback. It'd be really interesting to hear what works for you, because if there's something that you comment below that I think, oh, I've not even explored that yet, I'm going to go and dive into the research. I might include a detailed video on it in the future. But also, for other women, but for other people who want to look at, the benefits of these things, then it's handy to have that in the comments. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you for your company, and I will look forward to seeing you again next week.